You are listening to the voice of the frontline protector here at the Private Officer Beat Radio. Every week you'll hear breaking news, topics of training, information for the industry of security, public safety, and law enforcement. So strap in, hang on, we're about to speed off in this episode of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Glad that we are here all together once again, and if you're an avid listener to the Private Officer Beat Radio, then you know I've been missing from behind this microphone for quite some time. As my grandpa would say, nigh on about 30 days or so, actually. And over the course of these weeks that I've been gone, I have pondered, wondered, thought about, prayed, and even was beside myself, not knowing what to do. Because I'm a private person and I don't like to share too much about what's happening in my life or the burdens I bear, the situations I face, being both an active multi-business owner as well as a public safety worker in law enforcement and fire and EMS. And so some of you may have thought I just abandoned the radio show after more than 15 years, but no, that definitely was not the case. On March 31st, 2022, in the late evening hours, I faced a serious medical emergency. And even those of you that I spoke with afterwards do not know the true extent of that emergency. About 3 years ago, during a DOT fire department physical, I learned that I had type 2 diabetes. And although I'd always, for years, thought that was a possibility, there were symptoms that any EMT or paramedic would pick up on, but I ignored it, and eventually it caught up to me. After learning the fate of the type 2 diabetes, I checked it regularly. I tried to monitor it and change my eating habits, and did a lot of things different, but just not good enough. And on March 31st, a Thursday night, late into the evening, during a massive thunderstorm with a number of tornadoes packed in with it, I began bleeding from a hole on the back side of me that I could not stop. And eventually was semi-unconscious and bled for several hours before being able to contact 911. I was transported to a hospital and within 2 hours into surgery. And what happened was that gangrene, a type of gangrene, for those of you who may be familiar with it, it's like a cancer. It will eat away at your digits. A lot of times, diabetics, severe diabetics, will experience situations where they have toes that have to be cut off because of gangrene, or even feet. A friend of mine not too long ago in Kansas City had a leg cut off. Another friend of mine a number of years ago lost his life to diabetes. When I arrived at the emergency room, semi-unconscious, I was told that I was in critical condition because of the amount of blood that I had lost, and they immediately began transfusions of blood and platelets and continued that throughout 2 operations within 24 hours. And I was in the ICU unit for 9 days. And now I have a long road to recuperation because of a large hole that's surgical hole that is still wide open, draining, bleeding, burning, and 6 to 12 months is the estimated recovery time. I am subjected to a lot of medication, and I don't get around that well, and I'm not driving, and I'm working from home, thank goodness, but I still get tired, dizzy, lightheaded. So as you can see, someone who is always busy, always on the go, this is kind of a hard blow, and one that's not easy to talk about. I know that there's a lot of folks out there with diabetes, type 1 and type 2, that don't take good care of themselves. I know several personally. And I'm afraid that what happened to me could easily happen to them. And if I don't watch my step, reduce the sugar, do all the things I'm supposed to do, take the medications, I could go through this again, or possibly even worse. So that's why I decided to kind of come forward with my testimony as to where I've been for more than a month. But there's a song, always a song. There's a song by Alabama which says you can't keep a good man down. And that is the case here. I'm doing everything necessary to recover as quickly as possible. And we have a lot of plans for the rest of the year. We have many conferences happening. We have different training events, several new companies that they need, they need to grow. And I'm the person to help that happen. So, long road ahead of us. We're going to take a quick break. Yeah.
Can we be real for a minute? I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm a firefighter.
Man, we're going to have you out in just a minute, okay? I'm a designer.
I'm a retired VP in business.
And I'm a student.
I'm a mother.
I'm a business analyst, and I'm a volunteer firefighter.
You thought we just fought fire? Firefighters get trained to do so many things.
Right here. Get sharp.
What we do is serious business.
3/4 of the nation's first responders are volunteers. That includes here in Connecticut. And lately, it's been harder than ever, with fewer citizens volunteering.
From teenage cadets like me
To seasoned veterans like me.
So what are you waiting for?
You ready to make a difference?
Ready to join our team?
Your community needs you. We need you. Visit everydayherocc.org or stop by your local firehouse today and take the first step of joining your fire department.
From coast to coast, cops are cracking down on seatbelt violations. Buckle up day and night or expect a ticket. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live, they'll be on the lookout. Cops write tickets to save lives. Click it or ticket.
They say if you want a wish to come true, never tell anyone. But there is one wish that can make the difference between life and death. And this wish can only come true if you tell someone. Please, let your family know you want to be an organ donor.
Move along. I want to mention I really appreciate the folks who have sent emails and cards and posted on social media concerned about my well-being and sending along prayers, and it really touched my heart. So thank you everyone who did respond, and we'll keep you updated as things move along here medically for me over the next few weeks. But I did want to let you know I really did appreciate that, and it really meant just a lot to me. One of the things that occurs, at least here in my office, our employees continue working. Of course, everything has to keep on moving, and they did a fine job of doing that. Now, of course, they were very upset and concerned, and so things did become a little sluggish. We kind of slowed down a little bit, but I noticed that my office staff diligently put together some numbers about security officer deaths and injuries toward the end of March and beginning of April. There were 2 off-duty security officer deaths, 6 COVID-related deaths, a suicide in Iowa, of all places, and 8 homicides, including the majority between the end of March and today on the West Coast. There were also 61 security officers shot, 9 stabbed, and 20 other weapon-involved situations, 109 incidents involving the use of force and firearms across the country during that time. So, job well done to my staff. And like I said, things have to move along, even though I may be absent and not around. We are a business, and so my staff did a great job. All right, welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio. This Monday morning, the 2nd of May, yes, indeed, it is the 2nd of May, 2022. We have walked on over to the news desk where we have a ton of news day in and day out. So let's get right to it. A missing deputy sheriff and a murder suspect from Lauderdale County, the northwestern part of Alabama, they're unknown where they are. It's unknown where they are or what happened. The deputy sheriff was taking the murder inmate, Casey White, 38, to a mental health evaluation Friday morning when they suddenly disappeared. Now, police put out a blue alert, which is an alert similar to when a child goes missing or an elderly person. This is a blue alert, an emergency for law enforcement. But at this moment, we don't know if this was a planned escape, a lover's affair from the jail. We don't know. We know that the patrol vehicle, the deputy sheriff, and the murder suspect have not been seen. The FBI has entered the search. Many departments from multiple states are involved. We are staying on top of this. We have seen this before in other areas where deputies come involved with inmates and then help them to escape. I hope and pray that this is not one of those cases. $1 million bond has been set by a judge in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, for a murder suspect. Antonio Fountain, 36, is charged with murder and felonious assault on security officer Ronnie J. Brown. Brown was working at a facility last week when he tried to stop a bunch of trespassers on the property at this club. He was beaten by Fountain and later died. Because of the severity of the incident, the judge says $1 million bond is warranted. We don't know if any other arrests will be made in this case. 2 women and 2 men now indicted after they've been captured in an armored truck robbery in Houston, Texas. Melinda Cruz, 35, of Houston, was taken into custody on the federal indictment just a couple of days ago. Randy Long, Carl Johnson, also in custody. Police, FBI agents still looking for one other. The firearm that was used was discharged. Authorities say Houston has become the #1 area for armored truck robberies. A Milwaukee security guard is dead. Police said LaShant Stewart, 23, was working the overnight shift at a gas station on 27th and Burley when a confrontation ensued and he was shot to death. Police say that this is an active investigation. No arrests have been made. Car thieves shot a Florida security officer in Opelika, Florida. Authorities say the men entered the car lot after hours and stole 2 vehicles. A security officer at 4:30 in the morning spotted the burglaries. The 63-year-old security officer tried to intercept when he was shot by the suspects as they fled. The security officer is in critical condition. No arrests have been made in this shooting. Another security officer also shot. This here in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Charlotte Mecklenburg Police announced Friday morning a shooting occurred at the La Casa Skilled Base Game. This is a game room where they give out supposed prizes for the highest score. Many of these are nothing more than a front for an illegal gambling operations. I'm sure police will investigate. But another note, this is the same location where a security officer was killed during a robbery in 2019. In Compton, California, a security officer there shot and killed an 18-year-old during a robbery of what police are calling an illegal marijuana dispensary. Police say the 18-year-old man and 3 others entered the facility and attempted to rob it. The security officer got into a shootout with several of the suspects, and the 18-year-old was killed. The sheriff's department is still investigating this because this was a smoke shop and was not licensed to sell marijuana. That's why they're calling it an illegal dispensary. Several security guards in Indianapolis have been arrested following a shooting at a nightclub along Interstate 65. Authorities say the shooting at JD's pub resulted in the arrest of 32-year-old Jordan Morris and 22-year-old Cameron Lumpkin Weremay. Both currently do not face charges in the shooting, but the 32-year-old Jordan Morris faces charges of operating a security company without a license, and 22-year-old Cameron Lumpkin Weimar faces charges of invasion of privacy, and also police are investigating whether or not he violated several other charges. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police say more charges may be forthcoming. Several Florida prison security guards, that is, are charged with murder after an old-fashioned beatdown of a prisoner who was handcuffed. Police say that the suspect threw urine on one of the officers, which started the whole event. The guards were removing the inmate from a cell in the mental health unit of Miami-Dade County Prison on February 14th. After the inmate threw urine on the officer, they handcuffed him, and a beating followed, all caught on video. Now these three are charged with murder. Christopher Rowland, 29, Kirk Walton, 34, and Ronald Connor, 24, each charged with second-degree murder, among other offenses. They're all being held without bail. An arrest has been made in Las Vegas, Nevada, in a cold case of a murder of a security officer that we have been following. Police there say DNA helped them to track down Alvin Harrison Jr., who detectives said was 17 at the time of the murder. On June 9, 2013, at about 1:30 in the morning at the Desert Radiology, police say that he beat the security officer, Jose Pera, in the parking lot to the point of death. Detectives said they recovered pieces of evidence in the parking lot at that time. Later, DNA helped to link this case together, and now they have made the arrest. In Philadelphia, a security officer there has been charged with murder. A contract security officer employed as a bouncer at Taboo Bar and Lounge got into an altercation. 24-year-old Kenneth Fry surrendered this past Thursday at 2:20 p.m. on the charge of murder in the beating death of 41-year-old Eric Pope. He was not just a bouncer, but he was a contract private security company and had gone through the training. In Salem, Massachusetts, police there have arrested a restaurant security officer. Surveillance after hours at Kodo's restaurant caught their security guard breaking in and stealing money. He reportedly confessed. And Joshua Goslin, 33, has been charged with burglary and theft, and needless to say, he's been fired. Another shooting, this one also in Philadelphia, has left a security officer shot multiple times. This was at the Philadelphia Shopping Center at Baltimore and 58th. Police say luckily he was wearing a body armor, bulletproof vest when this happened. Police believe that this was a targeted robbery of the security officer. Thankfully, he survived the shooting. Another shooting involving security officers, also at a nightclub in Memphis, Tennessee. A wild shooting, police say. 14 casings were found in the parking lot. Police said that a man who was not allowed to enter a sports bar became upset, left, came back, began shooting. The security officer also returning fire. Authorities here say that in 2018, police say there was another similar incident. Law enforcement across the country say Wild West shootouts are not uncommon at nightclubs or places that serve alcohol. I recently did a news piece about this very thing just this year. Many security officers have been injured or killed at nightclubs, several targeted. I've listed a number of reasons we believe that we're seeing an increase. If you haven't read that article, go to privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. 2 other security officers and a suspect have been hospitalized in San Antonio, Texas. Police say 2 security officers were shot at the Haven for Hope, just outside of downtown San Antonio. Police were called, and they found the 2 security officers had each been shot once, and a suspect was hit by gunfire 3 times. Police are investigating. They say an altercation ensued between the man and security after he was asked to leave the property. A missing piece of luggage at a Greyhound bus in San Antonio, Texas, also has left the security officer and a bus driver staff. It seems that the man, a passenger, became highly upset around 3 a.m. last Tuesday. The 49-year-old man initially attacked the bus driver after he could not find his piece of luggage. He began stabbing him. When the security officer intervened, he also was stabbed. Both of those men were in their 60s. The suspect, who was arrested shortly afterward, is facing a number of criminal charges. Of course, the bus station says this is an isolated incident and they have a rather safe property. Speaking of property, in Houston, Texas, property manager and a security officer found a resident of a complex dead, murdered inside the apartment. Authorities say that the property manager found the tenant's door open, contacted security in the 8600 block of Woodway Drive. The 2 entered and found the tenant dead, contacting police. Now this is a homicide investigation. We often mention the number of homicide victims that are discovered by private security. That's why you should treat every death scene as a murder until you know otherwise. Don't touch anything. Don't try to be forensics, CSI. Just call 911 and get out of there and keep it secure. A woman is accused of hitting a security officer with her vehicle in Elkhart, Indiana. Police said they're still looking for the woman. This happened at a car dealership at about 4 p.m. Police say that the victim, the security officer, was patrolling when he got a call saying a woman was opening car doors on the property and would not stop after being asked to. He went over and asked her nicely to please stop opening all these doors. When he told the woman to go close the doors that she had opened, she allegedly refused, got back inside a black Kia that had been parked on the parking lot, and then ran over the security officer, making a U-turn and hitting him again. The victim was knocked to the ground. He had non-life-threatening injuries and was transported to the hospital. The suspect is still on the loose. We have a lot of breaking news, and we always say, if you want to hear what's happening, just go either and listen to our weekly radio shows. We cover some of the news, not all, but you can always read it at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. You can also join the conversation on Facebook /Private Officer or Twitter /Private Officer. Facebook actually is facebook.com /Private Officer International. One final note I saw early this morning: unarmed contract security officers replacing some Capitol police officers. Contract security officers are starting work this morning as part of a new program to help alleviate staffing shortages among Capitol Police. The new Capitol security officers will be unarmed and have a uniform of gray dress pants and a navy blue blazer. They'll be positioned inside secured buildings and within existing patrol areas. The move will free up the U.S. Capitol Police to focus on their critical mission to protect the Capitol complex, according to an announcement from the House Sergeant at Arms, William Walker. Since January 6, 2021, officers leaving and forced overtime have been a constant strain on the department, the announcement announced. The Capitol Police Department lost between 140 and 150 officers from January 2021 till January 2022, an attrition rate double that of other years. They are currently short by more than 300 officers. They have about 1,849 current officers, but they have the authority to have around 2,200. Using contract security has been opposed by the Capitol Police Department's union head. Imagine that. We need to hire more police officers, period, not fill in with guards that have little to no training, experience, or know the area. In law enforcement, we have to trust the men and women next to us. When he appeared before congressional appropriators last month, the union head asked for a budget of $708 million for fiscal year 2023, in part to hire more officers. That would be $105.5 million increase. The Capitol Board said that security officers will help ease the shortages and also to fill in the much needed time off. And right now, Capitol security officers will only assist with internal protection. They'll protect the House and the Senate community as we continue to safely reopen the Capitol complex. As for the budget request, well, let's just say that's been tabled for now. Woo! We got a lot of breaking news. Be sure that if you see something, say something, contact us 24/7, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We'll be right back. We're going to be talking today about a ruling that has surprised some security companies, a ruling from a federal agency that has blamed the death of a mall security officer directly on the shoulders of the employer. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
My name's Melissa Kinsey, and I'm with the YMCA of Lincoln. Drowning can happen in an instant. Your kids need to be safe not only in the swimming pool, but at the lake, and even in the bathtub. So what you can do to keep your kids safe is to supervise them. Put down the phone, put down the book, and sit and watch. Sit and play. Put your swimming suit on, and make sure that your kids are always in view, and they will have a great summer.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome, but with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.
Explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit Wounded Warrior.
Well, I just grabbed a stack of envelopes heading out to the mail this morning here. We're very busy at the home office. And I noticed that this is a stack of the graduating students, cadets, from the 3rd Armored College Citizens Police Academy. So let's give these folks a hand and some credit. I'm going to read out those who graduated as we are sending out their certificate, their documents, press release, and also membership to an outstanding group of men and women who have graduated from the Citizens Police Academy at Armour. Robert Stout, he is from Toms River, New Jersey. Congratulations to you. This time around, we had a cadet from Ontario, Canada, who enrolled and asked if they could, and we said, sure, why not? So Cindy Peruth of Ontario, Canada, congratulations to you. Darren Reynolds out of Orlando, Florida, a lifetime member of Private Officer. Ricardo Santos out of Davenport, Florida, also a lifetime member and a previous student. Terry Appleby, friends of ours over in Gulfport, Mississippi. Congratulations to Terry, a military veteran as well. Donald Bly out of Sunbury, North Carolina. Congratulations to you. Jose Cano of Texas. Congratulations to you, Jose. Robert Fierro out of Houston, Texas. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on with all these Texas people? Congratulations to you, sir. Donald Donnell Gately out of Yonkers, New York. Also a member of Private Officer. John Traphagen, sorry about that, out of California. Congratulations. He's also in the running of our contest for We're the Good Guys contest, where you could win some big prizes for designing a marketing campaign for We're the Good Guys, which says security people are on the front line. And so he's in the running for that. Wesley MacArthur out of Marion, Arkansas. Congratulations. Jeremy Muldrow out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Never heard of that place, huh? And Kyle Perot, he is out of Jacksonville, Florida. I apologize, Kyle. Longtime member and good friend. Tiffany Patterson, also a longtime member and friend of POI out of Clyde, North Carolina. Certainly, we do want to remind you that at least twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, we sponsor the Citizens Police Academy. And this is not just a couple of hours. This is a good 3 months. And let me tell you, when you graduate from the Citizens Police Academy at Armour College Police, you're going to know that you have learned a thing or two. We've had a lot of great compliments from all of the classes that we have held, and it's free. We offer this and several other courses free. And so if you're interested, sign up for our breaking news and be sure that you are watching those news alerts in the early fall. We have a lot of other news happening. Like I said, we're working from home office as we recover from our double surgery and a lot of things happening. That doesn't mean that we're going to be sitting around all day. We've got staff in the house. We got a list of things that need to get done as business will not wait. I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was telling him, you know, without good friends, staff, and a support system, I don't know how people who are injured or who go through surgeries or medical situations do it, because without that support system, it would be difficult to get things done. I know just from my own experience, laying there in bed in the hospital ICU, I couldn't do anything. I didn't have a computer. I could barely sit up for a number of days. And without having someone in the background taking care of things, it just, things don't get done. And my friend was saying, you know, you could be a millionaire. You could have $1 million in the bank. You're in the hospital, flat on your back. You're unable to even take 2 steps in front of you. How are things going to get paid? How are things going to get done? there's a lot of worries, and I can see this now. And, one of the things I didn't mention earlier was, at my age, I'd never been in a hospital for longer than a few hours or a night. And so this whole process was quite a shock. I got a whole list of things here in front of me that I want to remind you of. Make sure that you get involved with Private Officer International. If you want to help us, we have committees. You can be on the award committee, the training committee, the benevolent committee. You could be on the board, advisory board. Send us an email at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I also want to remind you to get involved with the virtual museum. We're still working with this, and we will get this out, along with several other projects, including the biggest one on my plate that's been there for about a year, and that is the streaming platform. We're working on that. Of course, we've had a couple of setbacks, but that doesn't mean that this is in the trash. This is alive and well, and we're working on it, and we're going to get it done. We're going to be doing mini conferences across the country. Be sure, like I said, to be checking out our breaking news. Go to privateofficer.org. A box will drop down. You can fill out your name, your email address. We don't spam you. We don't sell your info, and we don't charge you. Now, that could change. We are reviewing whether or not to put in a paywall for our news products. I've been saying for months how expensive it is for our staff to collect and distribute the news free. Unless we are supported by advertisement or donations, we're going to have no choice but to put up a paywall very soon and charge about $69 a year, which is still very inexpensive for all the news and information that we put out day after day, week after week, month after month. Have a lot more things to talk about, but we're going to leave that for next week. We are working on a special project right now about a contract security monopoly. We're not going to go too much into detail, but I will tell you that there is a company that we're looking at and working on getting some more details who has really taken over the contract security business in the U.S. by buying up more than 70 companies. Now, there are antitrust laws and other monopoly laws in place, and we're looking to see if they have violated any of these, because it has put a number of companies out of business. Mom and pops cannot compete with them. Remember Ma Bell back in the 70s and 60s and early 80s? The government came in and put them out of business in 1983. I remember it well. Now it seems like a contract security business is the new Ma Bell. And we're looking into, is it legit? Is it violating any current state or federal law? And I don't, hate companies who grow, but I do have a problem when they do it underhandedly, illegally, or in a way where smaller folks don't have any way of competing. And again, I'm not saying that this company has done anything wrong, but I'd sure like to know if it's on the up and up. We're going to take one more quick break. When I come back, I want to talk about a ruling by a federal agency that I think is really hitting the mark with some security companies. Many will just ignore it. But working with this agency, I hope that, as we have in the past, I hope that we can bring about some change in the safety of workplaces where security officers work. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, and we'll be right back.
If you're not already receiving
breaking news, and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down Reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. privateofficer.org. A Dropbox will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the Private Officer International Association, sign up while you're there today. Become a lifetime member for just $99, and we'll also include a free Private Officer International patch and
I met Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
I want to turn our attention now to a very important decision made by the U.S. federal agency called OSHA during the past week. Now, some of you may have already read about this, as we have sent out a news release last week. But OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, a federal agency under the U.S. Department of Labor, which oversees serious injuries, deaths, safety issues at the workplace, violations. I often teach about this in many of our workplace trainings. We also talk about this in other arenas as we talk about safety, not only for security and law enforcement, public safety, but we also spread the gospel in workplaces ranging from offices to healthcare facilities to manufacturers. And while it is my opinion that in my many years of traveling and teaching and being in business myself, I don't believe that most businesses really take workplace safety to heart. Although there are some large corporations and manufacturers that you can walk into their office or into their facility, and right there in front of you at the office is a big, huge sign, oftentimes in green letters, green writing, that says no injuries for 211 days. No injuries for 309 days. Safety first. Safety is everyone's job. And you see these signs posted throughout the property. This, to me, says it's a company that does take it to heart. They understand not only avoiding the financial penalties that could be assessed by OSHA, but also they don't want to see their employees injured. They don't want to see people killed on the job. Unfortunately, workplace deaths have gone up, as has workplace violence. But this past week, OSHA passed down a ruling and proposed a fine of $14,502 to the security company that oversaw security at the Boise, Idaho Town Square Mall. Professional Security Consultants Incorporated, a Los Angeles, California-based security company with offices in a number of states, was cited because of the death of a security officer that occurred October 25th, 2021. We have talked about this numerous times. This security officer was unarmed, no protective gear, no specific training. When this security officer was faced with violence, with not only injury but death, and OSHA, after their investigation, has said that the fatal shooting of this unarmed security officer was directly related to the employer's lack of providing proper training and equipment. Professional security consultants' policies and their procedures did not effectively address the risk of gun violence, a recognized hazard in the security service industry. OSHA Area Director David Kearns announced, "Every worker has the right to a safe and healthful workplace. This employer must provide enhanced safeguards and training to ensure workers have the knowledge and tools to better protect against assault." In this citation, OSHA provided professional security consultants with a number of recommendations to take in developing a workplace violence prevention program, which included training for all security personnel, increased high visibility signage, and procedures for identifying, tracking, and communicating information on high-risk people, persons of interest, and habitual offenders of the mall's firearm prohibition. Now, professional security, like I said, headquartered in L.A., California, with about 2,900 employees, did not immediately respond directly to the media. But this is something that we have addressed, I don't know how many dozens of times over the years. I have been in direct communications with the assistant director in Washington, D.C. of OSHA. I have had conference calls with OSHA representatives. We have talked about this very thing. Untrained, unarmed, no policy, no procedure, no two-way radio, no backup officer. They are oftentimes left to fend for themselves and hope they make it home alive. The fact is this, folks, whether you think that security officers need the additional training, or whether you believe that they should or should not be armed, the fact is something must be done. As of today, 31 security officers have been murdered in the U.S. this year alone. Last year it was close to 100. I believe it was about 88 or 89. The fact is, every year, homicides of private security increase, as do shootings and violence. Now, we're not even counting all the other workplace violence. The fact is this: I believe, and I have for 40 years, that security companies do know the risk, that they do understand the liability issue, but they just don't care because they believe their liability insurance will take care of any financial aspects, whether that be a fine from a regulatory agency or a lawsuit. They'll settle it out of court for as little as possible and go on their merry way. Security officers are playing with people's lives. Security companies are playing with security officer lives, and they've known that forever. It's a gamble. Risk versus reward. Yeah, I know I'm putting 2 unarmed security officers at a place that needs 5 armed officers, but, you know, the likelihood of something happening is small, slim to none. And if anything happens, well, we'll attend the funeral, we'll give the folks, the wives, you know, a couple of thousand, and we'll continue business as we traditionally have. What OSHA said in their ruling is what we have been saying here at Private Officer International for the past 18 years. Isn't it time that we give security officers proper training? Shouldn't we give them policies and procedures to protect themselves against an active shooter or a violent situation? I've had security companies tell me in the past, we don't give them more training because we don't want them to get involved. We don't give them a firearm because we don't want them shooting anybody. Forget the fact that they're going to be able to protect themselves from someone who has a gun. I've had security companies tell me directly, we don't train our people with first aid and CPR because we don't want to get sued if they do something wrong. I've explained the Good Samaritan law. I explained various state laws that protect anyone with or without training as long as they do something prudently and not outrageous. If you're not a doctor, don't do a surgery in the middle of the mall. And still, even with this ruling that came down last week, OSHA really putting it on the line saying, hey, security companies, contract security, get it together. Even with this ruling, little to nothing, I'm sure, will be done by most companies, including the one who's been cited. Now, about 3 or 4 years ago, OSHA issued a ruling in a homicide of a security officer. They said that the security company should have provided them, the officer, with armored, a vest, bulletproof vest, body armor. Now, to me, that says every security officer, this should be standard PPE. Some security company owners have argued with me, it doesn't mean that. It means just in that one situation, the officer, security officer, should have had body armor. No. At the very least, if you're not going to arm your security people, give them body armor. Why do you think Australia and the UK has issued body armor and body cameras to security personnel for probably at least a decade? If they're not going to be armed, at least give them some preventative PPE where they have a chance of surviving being shot. Just this past week, an off-duty security officer was involved in trying to stop an incident. He was still in uniform and he had body armor. And so when they shot him, he survived. How many news articles do you have to read where police are saved by their body armor? In the past 4 months, a security officer in Atlanta, a security officer in Miami, a security officer in Brooklyn, New York, and another fourth security officer, I don't remember the location, but we can look it up for you. All were murdered or attempted murder, and police later during the investigation said they were targeted. Now, some were targeted by unknowns that they had a conflict with or had thrown out of a bar or some type of disturbance at the property. A female security officer last week was shot 5 times outside a company where she was on duty. She's in critical condition today. Her ex-boyfriend has been arrested in the shooting. Targeted, police say she was definitely targeted, but it was by an ex-boyfriend, not by an assailant upset about being thrown off the property or someone who had a disturbance or a conflict with the security officer. We never know. We never know who is going to be shooting at us. I could go through a whole list, a laundry list of officers shot on duty after minor conflicts with individuals on the property. And more than a few that were shot and killed either by an ex-lover, someone who they'd been involved in illegal activity, including drug activity, or other situations. I believe that we not only owe it to our employees but to keep them safe, but that it's kind of like when we hire people and we put them on the job, we're promising them, we're saying to them, we're going to keep you safe. A commitment that few keep is disturbing. I don't know what you're going to make of this OSHA ruling. I don't know what you're going to make about, the other rulings that OSHA and other regulatory agencies have come up with in recent years. Private Officer International will continue working not only with OSHA, but with state regulatory agencies to tighten and get more control of what security contractors must do to keep their employees safe. Without oversight, I'm going to tell you, I doubt that many, if any, private contractor will do so. Hire them, put them to work, hope everything works out. Not really too concerned about training, equipment, oversight, communications. Nah. We'll worry about that later if something happens. Why spend the money? Why put forth the effort when almost nothing ever happens anywhere? That's a bunch of bull. Hundreds of security officers are shot every year, proven fact. Probably thousands are assaulted, proven fact. Think about it. 50 states. There's at least 1,000 security officers in every state. Some states have, 50,000, 100,000. Look at Washington, D.C. They got about 40,000 just in D.C. If each security officer is only assaulted once, pushed, yelled at, threatened, that a lot of people being assaulted across the country, many unreported, no police report. If you're interested in helping to keep security officers, proprietary and contract safe, to come up with some answers on how we can do this, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Thank you for coming back and listening to our radio program. Be sure that you spread the news, let folks know about the radio program. We're excited about the new streaming platform, the new radio show, Frontline Protectors, all the other upcoming things that we have going on. Stay tuned. Be sure that you're signed up for our news, our emails, and that if you're not already a member, go to privateofficer.org, click on the top there where it says current specials. You can sign up to be a lifetime member for just $99. Thanks again. Until the next time, be blessed, be safe, and we'll see you back here on the radio.